it. Everybody in the world is interested in Noah's flood and where it might have come from. So it's a really big thing in the Bible. God decided, because human race was so sinful and wicked, to destroy everything, and at the last minute relented enough to inform Noah that he has to build a boat really fast and put all the animals in it and shut the doors. Then afterwards life could continue when the waters went down. But the tablet is at least 1,000 years older than the story in the Bible. So, of course, this means that the question of where the story came from has a whole different explanation.
There's a similar story in India. King Manu was warned by a fish that there would be a great flood. The king built a great boat and survived. In an Aztec version, a sacred couple hide in a hollow tree with a little corn and somehow manage to survive the deluge. Other versions come from Irish legend, Norse lore, also from China. This is a terribly important motif.
We're used to history being something that's written down in books, but for most of the human experience, history was told in stories shared around campfires. It doesn't mean that it's all made up, and I think it's one of those moments where the myths are telling us about the truth of the past.
Uccello, the Netherlands, 1940. Dutch archaeologist Cornelis Hidsoller is excavating a sandpit when he notices something strange. A thin layer of ash buried 50 feet deep in the soil.
It's like a layer of black ash. Now, this suggests there was a great conflagration that took place. And it dates to between 11,000 and 13,000 years ago.
Over the next few years, the ash layer, dubbed Uccello Horizon, is found all over the world.
The Uccello Horizon is found actually in 10 countries on 4 continents, in Australia, in South Africa, and other parts of Europe and India. And this deposit of ash around the world is evidence of a worldwide cataclysm.
Could this layer of ash really be evidence of a devastating global event, like the one known as the Great Flood, for instance? Geologist Dr. Robert Schoch believes the cataclysmic event and the resulting layer of ash was created by a devastating solar flare, a sudden flash of increased brightness on the sun.
Based on my analysis of the evidence, there was a major solar outburst. This caused in a flash the glaciers to melt virtually instantaneously. It caused evaporation of water. We have physical evidence of this in the geological record.
To many, the Uccello Horizon is the strongest evidence yet discovered that supports stories of the Great Flood. For ancient astronaut theorists, proof of a global flood could offer some of the most compelling evidence that extraterrestrial intervention occurred on Earth in the distant past. In the Babylonian poem, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the hero Utnapishtim is told of a coming flood by the god Enki. In Vedic texts, King Manu is alerted by Lord Vishnu, who appeared in the form of a fish. And in the biblical tale, Noah is warned by God.
The common denominator in the flood myths around the world is that there was an otherworldly being, an extraterrestrial being who is providing knowledge to certain humans of what is to come. This tells us that there is definitely an extraterrestrial connection.
If advanced civilizations existed on Earth that were lost to history, could the story of the flood explain what happened? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest that further evidence can be found within the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in a cave in Jerusalem in 1947.
Some Bedouin shepherds came across these jars, and inside of these were ancient texts Very quickly, archaeologists and linguists started to realize that these contained Jewish religious literature that were of incredible importance, not just to the Jewish people, but to the world as a whole.
Among the texts is a story that describes the birth of Noah that doesn't appear in the Old Testament.
Noah is described of having skin that is whiter than snow, of having hair that is whiter than the whitest of wool, and Noah's eyes were brighter than the sun. Now, when Noah was born, the father, Lamech, went to his father, Methuselah, and says, "This is not my son. What happened here?" And Methuselah then says, he may have come from a different place where man has met the angels. Now, we need to first figure out what is the kernel of truth. And in my opinion, it certainly was not a giant ship made out of wood. And you combine that with Noah, who looks very otherworldly, well, there's your answer.
Could a worldwide flood explain the disappearance of an advanced civilization that preceded our own? And if so, were there survivors that kept the memory of this pre-flood world alive through oral traditions? Ancient astronaut theorists believe that not only did an advanced civilization exist for many centuries before the Great Flood, but that remnants of its lost technology can be found all over the world. Jerusalem, 2016. Researchers with the Israel Antiquities Authority studying the Dead Sea Scrolls make a major discovery. Using state-of-the-art imaging technology, they uncover a passage of ancient text previously unseen by the naked eye.
These researchers have discovered a new passage in the Dead Sea Scrolls that indicates that Noah's Ark wasn't in the shape of a ship at all, but was in the shape of a pyramid.
Curiously, this is not the first time that Noah's Ark has been depicted as a pyramid. In the 15th century, Italian artist Lorenzo Ghiberti created his masterpiece, a series of 10 panels that depict scenes from the Old Testament.
The Italian sculptor Lorenzo Ghiberti was selected to create the doors going into the new Florence Cathedral, the Il Duomo. These doors are called the Gates of Paradise. And something that's very extraordinary about them is that in one instance he shows Noah's Ark as a pyramid that resembles the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Is it possible that Lorenzo, while he was working for the church, learned about the true nature of Noah's Ark and then depicted it in his sculpture?
According to historians, the Pyramid of Djoser, constructed in 2600 BC, was the first pyramid ever built in Egypt, and the Great Pyramid was built 100 years later. But the dating of the Great Pyramid and the two smaller pyramids that stand next to it is a point of major contention, with many researchers suggesting they were built much earlier.
The step pyramid of Djoser is considered the world's first pyramid. It's a 6-tiered pyramid built very near the Giza Plateau.
Egyptologists often assume that the older pyramids are less well created and smaller, such as Djoser's pyramid, and that ultimately they're building up better and better until they finally built the Great Pyramid as their final construction masterpiece. But it may be completely reversed of that, and that the Great Pyramid, which is by far the best of all the pyramids, is actually the oldest of the pyramids.
2,500 BC, according to archaeology, humans made the Great Pyramid. Now, in old writing, especially in the book of Enoch and in the so-called Hittat, which is a book from an Arabian writer, they say the Great Pyramid was constructed before the Great Flood.
What if the Great Pyramid existed perhaps even for millennia before the Djoser Pyramid? Then the Egyptians come along, discover it, and decide, hey, maybe we can make one of those too. And that's when they built the Djoser Pyramid.
Perhaps the similar common motif or style is the pyramidal shape that seems to exist throughout the world. In Egypt, in Mesoamerica, in China, giant earthen mounds in the shape of pyramids. Why pyramids?
Is it possible that pyramids were built by cultures all around the world because they were trying to recreate much older structures that survived a great flood? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. And some researchers have even suggested that those pyramids that were built by pre-flood civilizations represent a form of lost technology. In his 1998 book, The Giza Power Plant, noted machinist and engineer Christopher Dunn proposed that the shape, positions of chambers, and proximity to underground rivers indicate the Great Pyramids of Giza functioned as power plants.
I personally think that the pyramids were some kind of energy generators. And here we have the strange idea that the ark itself wasn't a boat-type shaped thing, but it was actually a pyramid. So is it possible that whoever built the pyramids of Egypt was doing so to try to preserve their technology?
For ancient astronaut theorists, the possibility that the Great Pyramid served a technological purpose presents an intriguing question. If a lost civilization was able to build massive power plants, perhaps with the assistance of extraterrestrials, could they also have had the means to escape a world-ending cataclysm by leaving the Earth? Mountain View, California, January 16th, 2018. Geneticist Eric Jarvis and data management company DNA Nexus announced plans to create a biological database of every vertebrate species on Earth.
The development of this new genetic DNA database is essentially a modern-day version of Noah's Ark, where all of these animals, their DNA is selected and kept in these special databases. And in the future, we could resurrect any of these animals if we had to, if there had been some mass extinction on the planet.
But many researchers are hopeful that by the time a global cataclysm strikes, humanity will have developed the means to transport this modern-day ark into space and seek out a new home planet. We don't have forever on this planet. Let's say our resources are running out. Let's say something else happens. Or let's even say we know and we can calculate this, that 252 years from now, we will be met a giant collision with an asteroid. Well, we better do something about that. So we better start working on that today. In 2018, a company named Axiom Space revealed plans to put a hotel in Earth's orbit. Meanwhile, NASA is preparing to send astronauts to Mars. Considering humanity's current efforts to venture into space, if advanced civilizations existed in Earth's distant past, might they have done the same?
Cultures all around the world talk about humans deciding on their own to leave the planet. They call this ascension. In many of the flood myths, the common theme is that it had been prophesied and people knew it was coming. And maybe their answer was to migrate into space.
There are a number of craters on the moon that have what look like pyramids right in the middle of the crater. Mars apparently has similar pyramid structures on it. Maybe they were created by this super civilization of the past, just like we're going to do in the near future.
Could it be that pyramids and other structures were built on the moon and Mars, not by beings who were coming to planet Earth, but by those who were fleeing it? Did Earth's refugees build these structures to sustain them while they sought out a new home? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, this notion presents another, perhaps even more profound, possibility.
civilization that left before the cataclysm, and now they're come back?
Is it possible that civilizations that inhabited the Earth tens of thousands of years ago did not die off, but survived on another world? And if so, might they be capable of returning to their home planet as alien visitors? Perhaps as we venture deeper into space, we will make contact not with extraterrestrials, but with mankind's ancient ancestors. Is it possible that humankind's true origins lie not on Earth, but 400 light years away?
According to our traditions, we are of Spain, Star people.
Throughout the world, ancient people pointed to the Pleiades and called it home.
References to the Pleiades go back thousands of years into antiquity.
In fact, the Kepler Space Telescope has found evidence of planets in the Pleiades.
Now, a new discovery provides an intriguing link to this star system.
This object seems to come from the Pleiades star cluster, which is quite astonishing. It's almost like a calling card of where the extraterrestrials came from. They came down from the Pleiades.
There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Maui, Hawaii, October 19th, 2017. Scientists at the University of Hawaii Haleakala Observatory detect a strange object traveling through our solar system. They initially catalog it as an asteroid, but after further examination, researchers observe that the object accelerated as it approached the sun, acting more like a comet, but without any other comet-like characteristics. The find forces astronomers to reclassify it as something entirely new, an interstellar object.
We've never seen anything like this in the solar system before. We get an estimate of its size at about 800 meters or half a kilometer in length. Roughly a cigar-like shape. It was moving very fast, a little more than 195,000 miles per hour. You get a chill sometimes when you understand something is very important or is really exciting, and that's what I felt with this object.
Our Milky Way galaxy is estimated to consist of 100,000 million stars, each indicating the presence of a solar system. Because the distances between them are so vast, astronomers believed it was impossible for an object from another solar system to reach our own. Until now.
It just came from outside our solar system, meaning it wasn't material from our star being created. It's from a different star system somewhere else. That's historic that we've actually seen it. We now know objects can travel from one star system to another.
Researchers dubbed the interstellar visitor Oumuamua, a Hawaiian term meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. Is it possible that the interstellar visitor was, in fact, a messenger? One sent on a mission to our solar system.
Different scientists have analyzed the data and deduced that it's something very different to an asteroid or a comet. So the scientific data does point to it actually being some artificial creation.
We've had open speculation about how this thing might be an interstellar spacecraft. Talk from a Harvard professor.
The chair of Harvard's astronomy department, Dr. Avi Loeb, noted that the object seem to follow the propulsion patterns of a new technology that is currently being tested for future space missions, known as solar sail propulsion. Large reflective sails capture sunlight to propel a craft through the vacuum of space.
You can design essentially photon sails. So the idea has been to make a material that reflects photons, which is light, very efficiently. You deploy this and you basically accelerate under starlight, and then you just cruise.
Was similar alien technology used to propel Oumuamua?
It makes you wonder, was that a targeted mission, some sort of probe that has been sent in to look for life?
Before man actually went to the moon and walked on it, we sent a lot of probes around the moon to look at it. And it's quite likely that some version of NASA from some other star system could send a probe here to Earth.
The trajectory of the interstellar object took it past the sun, where it made a turn and then ran parallel to Earth's orbit. It traveled between our planet and Mars before it began its journey out of our solar system.
When Oumuamua arrived, nobody knew where it came from. Then in 2018, an astronomer at the University of Hertfordshire retraced its movements and discovered that it came from the Pleiades. We have to ask, is it possible that it was actually sent from the Pleiades?
For ancient astronaut theorists, the revelation that Oumuamua traveled to our solar system from the area of the Pleiades star cluster is highly intriguing. The Pleiades figures into the creation stories of many ancient cultures from all around the world, where it was taught that divine beings came from these stars to seed life on Earth.
If we look at the mythologies of the Pleiades around the world, there's some indication that this star cluster is in some way related to a visitation in ancient times.
Located over 400 light years from Earth near the constellation of Taurus, the Pleiades is commonly recognized as 7 bright stars, but actually consists of thousands.
The Pleiades. Everybody's heard of the Pleiades. They're also known as the Seven Sisters, because if you have really good eyesight, you can see 7 stars in a very compact configuration in the winter sky. And in fact, there are a lot more stars than 7. There are actually 3,000 stars in the Pleiades.
So the Pleiades is a star cluster. They're not separated by huge distances, but they occur in a small area. That's different from a constellation, where the stars could be moving in all sorts of directions and are separated by huge distances.
The importance of this massive star cluster to ancient peoples is revealed not only by their creation stories, but also in how they oriented their most important structures.
All around the world, we find ancient structures that have alignments that infer a relationship to the Pleiades. Now, these can be found at places like Chaco Canyon, in Mesoamerica, in various parts of the world. It's clear that the ancient people wanted to incorporate the rising of the Pleiades in some way with the building of these megastructures.
Additionally, ancient artwork and artifacts pay homage to these same stars, with one depiction dating back an incredible 18,000 years.
Perhaps the earliest reference to the Pleiades is in the Lascaux caves in France. But these go back thousands of years into antiquity, even before the written language.
The Pleiades constellation shows up in various artifacts, one of them even being a Sumerian tablet relief that shows what appears to be some type of a god coming out of the Pleiades constellation. An interesting artifact coming out of the 1600s is the Never Sky Disk, depicting the constellation of Pleiades.
Worldwide, we find hundreds of references having to do with the Pleiades. Not just on one continent, not just in one culture, but in multiple continents, in multiple cultures worldwide. That to me indicates that's happened here on Earth, having to do with someone visiting from the Pleiades.